Peace and blessings. You're watching That's What's Up with Qiyamah Muhammad. This is a series to showcase the lives and experiences of those in the albinism community, um, and oops, to to share their life and their experiences. And we're here with our guest for today, Dale. That's your name, right, Dale?
Yes, Dale.
Yes. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'll do my intro as well. Since we are both doing our we are both doing our podcast. So this is also the Life with Albinism podcast with your host Dale, and I also have a wonderful guest here. It's pronounced Ayana Muhammad, correct?
Qiyamah.
Qiyamah Muhammad. Okay. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. So is there a particular topic or should we just dive right into what we came here for?
I think we could just dive in. It's just,
All right, so
any topic that comes to.
let's do it. So we are here today, okay, in contentment of court, because Kiana Muhammad has stolen my idea of creating an albinism podcast. So I would love to hear her defense and how she can defend her completely taking my idea, but saying that she did not. Let's hear this, please.
Okay, so first of all, I think stealing is a bit of an overstatement.
Okay.
Since me personally, I've never seen, anything that portrays any any interviews or anything.
Mm-hmm.
A person with albinism, and speaking to others with albinism, and me and my family, we always talked about just different things that we could do for confident albino brothers and sisters, and having this show was just one of them. um, so is it really considered stealing if I've never heard heard of
Well,
it?
see, now that's what we really got to decipher, because are you telling me you have never seen my Life with Albinism podcast? You've never seen it?
Nope.
Because
Not.
I got to say this. We both have shared our podcast in the same albinism groups. It even went as far as you used one of the guests that I've had on one of my shows from 2 years ago. And you just recently used them on your show. So when I see that similarity, and then I see that we're also posting our podcast in the same groups,
Mm-hmm.
and it's natured exactly the same way where we're interviewing other people with albinism.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard to believe you can say you've never seen my podcast. Now, is that correct? You're saying you have never seen my podcast. Let's say you never watched the episode, but have you ever seen it being posted somewhere?
Absolutely not. I've only just recently seen a couple clips um when I found out that you had your own podcast, and that was like my first time actually seeing anything. So.
Hmm. Hmm. And then I also want to say I did some research, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that you've had your YouTube channel for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And I even went back years and years back to try to see, well, when did she start doing this albinism podcast where she's actually interviewing other people with albinism?
Mm-hmm.
And upon doing that research, even the dates align to where I did mine first, and about a year later, you then did your albinism podcast. So that mixed with using my same guest,
Mm-hmm.
mixed with modeling it in the same fashion that I do it, is
Mm-hmm.
what made me say, she had to have taken my idea.
Right, but
You
let me
know?
counter that. So we could also say, say in the music scene, there's this group, they do like a school concept, and they're the first ones that did that concept. And then there's another group, they did that exact same concept, but it's a different song and everything. would and people would say, "Oh, this group stole from that group's concept because it's just the same,
Right.
like same idea." Is that would that be considered stealing that concept?
Not intentional. No, not intentional. But the funny thing is this. I'm not sure how true this is, but I've even heard of scenarios in the music industry where, let's say, a producer makes a beat that sounds exactly like another producer's beat, and he didn't intentionally steal it. He never heard it. He just modeled his beat that way, and it happens to have uh, the same tempo and everything as the other beat, and they still lose these lawsuits because it's like, hey, regardless if you knew or not, this person, copywrote their stuff or whatever the case. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
if you say that you've never seen my podcast and never even seen it posted somewhere, then I will believe you, right? I'm going to believe you. I don't think that you would lie about that. I definitely don't. I just thought it was mighty coincidental that our stuff came up to be almost exactly the same. You know what I mean? And but if you say you didn't steal it, then I believe you're telling the truth. I don't. I think you would, and that was part of my because I wasn't upset, right? But that was part of the issue. Was I was like, okay, if in fact she seen my idea, liked it, and wanted to flip it in her own way, I would at least want her to pay homage first, to at least come to me and say, Dale, I like what you're doing. I want to do it too. Can I join your podcast? Can I, you know what I'm saying? Instead of just straight up stealing it. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? But as you say, you didn't steal it. So then let me ask you this: moving forward, after you then took the time to view my podcast, were you kind of like, oh wow, he's doing the same thing I thought of? Like, how did it hit you as the coincidence of
I was just like, oh well, here's another albino person doing interviews. And I'm like, that's neat. And
it
like, I didn't even think like, oh, or things are kind of similar. I'm just like, hey, we're doing things to get people's stories out there. Like,
right, right. So now let me ask you this. Let's reverse it, right?
mhm,
Let's say if you were doing your thing, and then you came to have seen mine,
mhm.
and then saw that you were doing yours first, would you have initially thought, oh, maybe he got this idea from me?
No, I'm just like, oh, maybe he just wanted to, have his own thing, have, you know, just work up his organization and everything, like,
Mm. And to be clear for all the viewers and everything, I don't want people to misconstrue me taking this as like competition or nothing like that. You know what I mean? Because it's wonderful that we're both have the same idea and we're doing the same things. So I didn't really take it as competition, like, oh, she's trying to compete with me. I just took it as, oh, she saw my idea, she liked it, and she turned it in her own way, which is fine. I just would have wanted you to at least reach out and say, yo, I like what you're doing. You know what I mean? But I see that it didn't happen like that. Now, there's one other thing I want to say, right? And this isn't to you, but this is to everybody else watching. What I'm about to say is real. You understand? Aside from you, because you said you said it wasn't on purpose. That's cool. Aside from you, I've seen a lot of you other albinos starting albinism podcasts, and that did come from me. That originated from me, and that is why on my business card I had to start putting the world's first albinism podcast, so that when people take my idea, they know who did it first. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I had to start doing that because the moment I did my albinism podcast, I seen mad people on my timeline doing podcasts after that, especially people with albinism. Even some people even taking my titles. Like we did a episode called "Dating with Albinism." I seen another albino do a podcast, and he labeled his first episode "Dating with Albinism." You know what I mean? So I've seen people biting my ideas, and instead of biting my idea, come talk to me. Say, I like what you're doing. Say, I like that. I want to join. How can I do my own? Yo, I want to spin it in my own way. Do that instead of trying to rip off somebody else's idea. You know what I mean? And remember, I'm not talking to you. I'm just talking to everybody else out there so that they understand. You know what I mean?
But I
Because I
don't.
think it's
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The last thing I was gonna say is because I think it's important that people know who started this first, so that they know where the idea originated from, because now if you were to type in albinism podcast on YouTube, you'll probably find a bunch of people now. You'll probably find a bunch of pages. They need to know it started here with life with
But two I'm just gonna put like two things out there.
albinism. Say whatever you want. This is open.
Um and like not saying that you're not the first person like to have an albinism podcast. And, with others coming up and making their own. It's like it could be inspired but not stealing. Um and like say like just with us, you would be like the first male person with albinism to do an albinism podcast, and I'd be the first female to have a show about albinism. So it's like we
Right.
could, that title. Maybe it's like, the first teenager to have their own podcast and everything. So it's like,
Yeah,
so,
and you're right. You're right, and I respect that. But see, like with me, right? If
mhm,
I see somebody doing something and I like that and I wanted to do it too or spin it off in my own way,
mhm,
I would reach out to that person and say, "Yo, man, this is so awesome. It inspired me. I like what you're doing. I want to do this too." I might even come to that person for advice, or even if I don't come to them for advice because I feel like I know how to do it on my own, I would at least come to that person and be like, "Yo, man, I like what you're doing. This is nice." You know what I mean? And I think even outside of the whole stealing thing, I think just in general, if you see something that you really like, or you see somebody doing something that's super innovative or creative, it's just important to give them a compliment on that. Like you'd be surprised how much you make a person's day just by saying the simplest things. Like you might walk down the street and just tell somebody good morning, and that might just make their day. You know what I'm saying? That ain't how it is with me, but I'm just saying with most people, just giving them any kind of compliment makes them feel great. So outside of people taking other people's ideas, just if you just see somebody doing something amazing, maybe it's a painting. You might see somebody painting something beautiful. People shouldn't be afraid to go up to that person and say, "Yo, man, that painting looks dope. That painting looks amazing, man. Nice work." Whatever the case may be.
mhm. Yeah, it's always nice to have an artist getting appreciated for the work.
Right.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So now, let me ask you. So, how is it? How was it for you living with albinism? Growing up throughout your life, was it rough for you? Was it hard? How was it for you?
Um, well, for me, I guess I could go back to just, when I was born. Um, my my parents, they well, so of course, knowing that albinism is a genetic is a gene in people. Um, my my parents, when I was born, my dad, he like thought that I would get darker, like as the hours would go by. So
That's got to be the
he tells
funniest
the
thing.
story, like um,
That's crazy.
so when I was born, he had the doctors put me under a light just to see if like I'd get more melanin or anything.
So
But
they didn't know what albinism was, or is that?
um I think my mom, she had like an idea because she has a cousin with albinism. Um so I don't have like any other siblings or anything. Like my older brother, he's more dark skinned, well, more dark skinned. Anybody would be more dark skinned, but yeah. um so I think they had like an idea, but just having their own child with albinism was a different experience than
Right.
growing up with a cousin, or like my dad had I have a an uncle with albinism.
Oh, so
I have
it's all through your family, an uncle, a cousin.
mhm. Yeah, but those are the only two I know about. So, but yeah, but just growing up, of course, it was tough. I went to schools that were mainly black. So, seeing a black person that to them would look like a white person, that I guess threw them off or whatever.
Mm.
I was bullied and stuff, like teased just for being for being albino. Um, like me and my brother, we went to a taekwondo academy when we were
Mhm.
younger. Um, and one of the friends I made there, she was like, "Yeah, when I first saw you, I thought you were a monster." And I'm like young. I'm like 8 or something, I think. So that was like a monster. Like what? I didn't that didn't like register in my child brain. I was like, what? What? I'm just human like you.
Right.
But yeah, and no, sometimes at school, like public school, I'd get like it was these moments where I get like roughed up a bit or anything. Of course, my parents and my brother would say, like tell your teachers, like hit them back, like defend yourself.
Right.
So that was like just a few of the tougher moments. But
Yeah, same thing with me. Like in early childhood, yeah, it's definitely you go. I definitely went through like a lot of bullying, a lot of like teasing, name calling, and stuff like that. And for me, it's like I always felt like being bullied wasn't necessarily a bad thing because with that came other things. Like there would be times where like if a guy is picking on me, there would be like another dude who's like on the football team who's intimidating that would then step in and be like, nah, you're not going to talk to him or you're not going to tease him like that or whatever. So, with being bullied came with friendships too. Like I made friendships with people who were like on the football team and stuff like that back in like middle school who would have never been my friend. They was just being my friend out of the seeing other people pick on me and wanting to be my friend and because they wanted to defend me. So I think that happens, and then I also just feel like being picked on or being bullied to a certain degree is a good thing because number one, it builds character, you know what I mean, and then number two, it helps you to understand people are always going to have different feelings about you. You know what I'm saying? Not everyone's going to think you're attractive. Not everyone's going to think you're cute. Not everyone's going to think you're ugly. You know what I mean? Not everyone's going to think you're cool. Not everyone's going to think you're funny, whatever the case. So when you are bullied, it gives you that real dosage of life. Like, hey, some people are not going to like you. Some people are not going to like you for no reason. And I think it's important to know that. And I think it's important to know not to care about what other people think of you. You know what I mean? So I think that I don't really view being bullied as a bad thing unless it's like super super harsh, like you're getting beat up every day and they're stuffing you in the lockers and they're stealing your coat and they're stealing your money and and they're doing all of that. Then that's when then that's a different story. You know what I mean? If it gets to that degree, but for me, it was never the degree of like people taking my lunch money and then stealing my coat, stealing my stuff, and then throwing me in the locker and beating me up every day, and I'm fighting every day. Like it was never to that degree. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But
mine was kind of like that, just not to like that whole extreme. Like, I remember like sometimes my money had gotten stolen. We were like on a field trip or something, and
mm,
this girl who would always like bully me, she ended up stealing my money, and I asked her like hey, did you like where did my money go and everything, and but yeah.
yeah, see, I think that's like the higher level to where now it becomes a lot more toxic because now you have to like watch your back and things like that. That's when it gets to a toxic level. But when it's just at the level where they're like, "Oh, you look like Casper, you look like Santa Claus, you look like a white boy," when it's just that, yeah, who cares? You know what I mean? Like that's petty stuff. Nobody cares about that. And I feel that way because my thing is living with albinism is all we know. It would be different. Like here's an example I like to bring, right? If you were skinny at one point and then you let yourself go and you became obese and you became fat and then you got picked on for being fat, it would be a lot harder to deal with that because you once were skinny. So you know what it's like to be quote unquote normal, and now that something happens, now you get teased and made fun of. So now it's a lot harder to deal with because you wasn't used to that.
Mhm.
Whereas with having albinism, this is all we know. This is all we look like this our whole lives. So I don't have anything else to compare it to say, hey, this is good or this is bad or whatever the case. This is all I know. This is my life, and I tell you this, it's done it's done amazing work for me, man. I tell you this, man, albinism is the absolute best thing that has ever happened to me in my life, for real. And it has done so much for me, from not only just making me a tougher person, but also all of the benefits that come with it. You know what I'm saying? Free tuition, stuff like that. All the communities that we can join, and just looking different. Period. Like my thing is this: is like people focus so much on negatives that they don't know how to translate it into a positive. Like just in us having albinism, we look different,
Mm-hmm.
and that might benefit us in so many different ways. Like you might get a boyfriend faster because you look different, or you may look exotic to him, or something like that. You might make friends faster because you look different. You know what I mean? So looking different is a good thing. You know. So I honestly feel like albinism is something that is really has really been beneficial all the way around the board. I personally don't feel like anything with albinism has negatively impacted my life other than vision. And that's what I tell people all the time. Because of my albinism, I can never drive a car. You know what I mean? That's probably the biggest downside, where it's like I can never operate a vehicle. So I can never buy a car. I can never drive a car. I can't, you know what I mean? I won't ever know what it's like to want to go somewhere and just get up, get dressed, hop in my car and go. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? I won't know what it's like to be able to live anywhere and just be like, hey, I could drive 30 minutes to work. You know what I mean? So that would be the only downside. If albinism didn't come with the vision, it would be the best thing on earth. You understand me? It would be like, yo, I want everybody, I want the whole world to have albinism if it was like that, if it didn't come with the vision. But because it do, that's the bad part.
And when you just mentioned driving, I was on a call with my friend a couple of days ago. She was like, because she had gotten a driver's license, and she was all like, yeah, when we live together or whatever, like, are you gonna get your driver's license? I was like, I don't know if I'd be able to drive. She's like, I was like, come on, you can drive. And I was like, you do now. I'm like, practically blind, right?
Right, right.
It's like, I don't know. I haven't um asked if I'd be able to drive, so I don't know.
Well,
If
what's your vision?
oof, uh, I don't remember. Um, the last time I got my eyes checked, I don't remember
Okay.
what they
Well,
said.
I'll say this: in most states, the legal requirement to drive is 2070. So you have to have 2070 vision or better in order to operate a motor vehicle. And hey, listen, I'm with that, right? Because obviously that law is put in place for a reason. You know what I mean? So clearly, at one point, no matter what your vision was, at some point, everyone was able to have a license. And clearly, the people who were 2070 and below were probably the people crashing the most, getting into the most accidents. So then now you got to implement that law to say, okay, keep these people off the road because they may potentially cause more accidents because of their vision. And I respect that. That law is in place for our safety. So
Mhm.
I'm not one of those rebellious albinos who's like, no, forget that. I'm going to drive and I'm going to try to use telescopic lens and no. That law is in place for a reason. I potentially will kill somebody if I get behind this wheel because I can't see that sign from 200 yards away.
Right.
So respect that. You know what I mean?
But then again, for those who the people with albinism who are able to drive, like my uncle, he has like a pickup truck or something like that, and he drives just fine.
Right. And that means his vision is better than 2070. See, here's the funny part about albinism is that we all have a vision defect. However, some of us have better vision than others.
Mm-hmm.
Which that to me is the weird part of it all because we all don't got the same vision. Some albinos have better vision than others, and those are the ones who can drive. So I say salute to them, man. That must feel amazing. That must feel amazing to have albinism be practically legally blind and still be able to drive because your vision is slightly better than 2070. That must be amazing, man. Hats off to them, but I ain't gonna never know what that feel like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So were you like that? Like when you were growing up and when you realized you couldn't drive because of the legal requirement, were you like, nah, man, I really want to drive? Forget that. I'm gonna still learn anyway, or were you like, it is what it is?
Um, well, to be honest, I've never really had like an interest in driving.
Okay.
Like, of course, I always ask like my brother and my dad is like, so who's gonna teach me to drive? Like, if I ever was gonna learn how to drive, and be like, oh, your brother will do it. Oh, maybe dad will do it. And then some like they'd be like, oh, um maybe your grandma or something. But I've never really like had an interest to drive. But I guess like if it turns out that I am able to, of course I'd love to learn and everything and get my license potentially.
So what sparked you to want to start your albinism podcast? Like, what was your first thing that triggered you to say, "Hey, I want to do a podcast for people with albinism"? How did that start?
Oh, how did I start? um, well, I guess it kind of started with how I came up with the title. That's what's up. Um, that started a couple of years ago. I had did a summer job and I was on the bus and these two brothers, they came on the bus. One like he kept looking at me like he was just all like, how it is. People just staring at you. Um so the um the other the other brother that was with him, he like turned to me, he's like, hey, are you albino? I was like, yes. And it's like, oh, that's what's up. So So you had mentioned how something like so small could just make your day. That made
Yeah.
my day after like a day of working, and I was like, "Oh, like that's kind of nice." Just it's
Oh,
like
that's
first I
good.
like oh okay, and then just moved on. It's like oh that's what's up. Like that was interesting to him, but yeah. So that's like how that came up with the title. But how I got started with the interviews was ooh, how did I get started? um, like I mentioned before, I just wanted to do more things to, grow confident albinos, and I think I think my mom had mentioned it before of just um, how about I interview people. I was all like, ooh, I don't, I don't know, because I'm all shy and
But now to tell you how I got mine started, um, I also have a cousin with albinism, and I also have a best friend with albinism named Jason. And one day I was sitting down and I was just thinking, and I was like, every time somebody sees me and sees that I have albinism, they're always very inquisitive about certain things. They always have questions to ask. So I was like, yo, wouldn't it be dope if I just do a podcast about albinism in which I can answer every question that everyone could possibly have about it? And then I was like, well, and I have a cousin with albinism, I have a best friend with albinism, I know plenty of other albinos. I can just pull people in as guests onto my show. So I was just like, yo, this would be a dope idea. And
Mhm.
that's where I came from. That's how I came up with the idea. And then with the name Life with Albinism, I mean, just self explanatory. I was just like, I want to use each episode to talk about living with albinism and how albinism impacts your daily life, not just the negative, but the positives as well. And in doing that, I started to realize how informative it was to people. Like when I check my YouTube, all the time I'm getting comments from people in Germany, Switzerland, Africa, Spain. That's like, oh my God, nobody with albinism lives in my city. Watching your show is the only way I can relate to someone. So there was that. There was people who were like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. That's very informative. And then I realized we could start encouraging people. And one thing that you said that I kind of want to home on really quick is confidence, because that's one thing that I've noticed is that not everybody with albinism is confident. I would say a good, I would say a good majority of them are, but a lot of people with albinism are also not confident. So I realized we can use our platforms to encourage people to be confident, and that's one of the things I focus on a lot is encouraging confidence into others, because to me it's so important. And I've said this on my show a million times, but confidence is so important because when you lack confidence, it will affect everything else in your life. It will affect jobs, it will affect relationships, it will affect friendships, it will affect how you perform. How, like, studies have even shown that people who are more confident can complete a task even better when they're more confident that they can do it. So and beyond that, we have albinism. So we're going to get teased, we're going to get stared at, we're going to get pointed at every day. So it's so important to have confidence on top of that because you never know what person you may come across tomorrow that may try their best to hurt your feelings, whether it works or not. But so I try to encourage people with albinism to be confident and understand that all these things that come with albinism is positives, except for the vision. That's the only. But and then again, the vision is a positive too because that's how you get the free tuition. You don't get free tuition because you have albinism. You get free tuition because you're legally blind. So even the blindness comes with that. Then you got other things like accessory. I got that now. You get a car to come pick you up at your door and take you wherever you want to go. You know what I'm saying? And it was free for the whole pandemic. You know what I'm saying? So now you get a car because you can't drive. Now you got a car service to come take you wherever you want to go. You know what I mean? I use it all the time. I go to the airport. I got 6 packs of luggages. I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? So my whole thing is even the legally blind part is even a benefit too because that comes with all the biggest benefits of albinism comes from us being legally blind. So understand there's no negatives associated with albinism. It's all positive things, and it is who you are. This is how you are. This is what you are. This is how you were born. Accept that. This is what it is. That's just my view.
And I guess, um, like just to add on, like even if you think it could be a negative, um, with being out in the sun, like we can't be out in the sun for too long or else we'll get sunburned.
That's
But
a fact.
to counter that, just like have sunscreen, make sure you got your umbrella or whatever, like got your sunglasses. It's like there are things to prevent it.
Right.
Make sure to stay in the shade and everything.
Right. I totally forgot about that. Probably because I live in New York and it's always so cold over here. But
Uh,
yeah, definitely. I would say so. I changed my mind, right? Not the vision, because again, the vision comes with the other big benefits like the free tuition, the free rides, and all that stuff like that.
mhm,
So scratch that. The bad part about albinism is the sun. That's the bad part because you go out there in that sun, you get burnt. You understand? I've had sunburn on cold days sometimes because one thing I didn't realize, no, for real, no joke. One thing I didn't realize is that, and this is informative for everybody with albinism. What gives you sunburn is not the heat. It's not about how hot it is. It's about how strong the UVA rays of the sun is on that day. So it is very possible that it could be somewhat of a chilly day, but as long as the sun is out and the UVA rays are high for that day, you can still get sunburned. And trust me, it's for real because it happened to me. I was outside on a real sunny day and it was kind of cold, to be honest with you. It was actually cold, but the sun was out and the UVA rays were pretty strong, and I still ended up with sunburn. So take that serious. It's for real. You know what I mean? Get your sunscreen, put on your shades, make sure you keep the sun from out of your eyes, get your shades, get your hat. Take it serious because I didn't take it serious when I was younger and I got sunburned a lot. So that ain't no fun.
yeah, and to have like share my own story. Um, I was with my friend who got her driver's license. We had went out um like a couple of years ago to um I think like Six Flags or something. Um, and I made sure to stay in the shade whenever we'd go on like a ride or anything. And right when we were back in the car, I noticed like my whole face was just sunburned, my arms and everything. And I was like, how did this happen? And I was in the shade for the majority of the day. I had my
Mm-hmm.
umbrella and everything. Like, oh my God. But
Because
yeah,
it ain't about the heat. It's about
right.
how strong the UVA rays are for that day. And each day it's different.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was something I had to learn the hard way as well. You know. But and I really I really do enjoy the fact that we came together to have this podcast, have this conversation. I think this is dope, and I love the fact that we're both helping people out within the albinism community and helping sharing people's stories.
Mhm.
Because we get a lot of interesting stories of people with albinism, and it's super interesting, and it's very informative to the masses when we put this out here. So this is actually great what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad we were able to connect and do this.
Yeah. So, did you have any questions for me? I feel like I was kind of, you know, asking all the questions. You got any questions for me?
Yeah, you are good.
Like I said, childhood, same thing as you. Get picked on, name called, bullied, stuff like that. And that always continued. Like it never, what I mean. Like even in I would say the older you get, the more it slowly starts to go away. You still get it a little here and there when you're like in high school or college and stuff like that. It still happens, but it definitely decreased over time. So there's that, and then like we mentioned, then you get to like the age of 16, and then you realize for the first time you can't drive a car. You know what I mean? And that's how it really was, for me growing up. But like I said, with that came certain friendships and things like that, or people who deliberately wanted to treat you nicer than others because they saw that you had a defect or had albinism or whatever. For me, going through school, the hardest part was definitely vision, because every classroom I was in, even if I sat in the very front row, I couldn't see the board. I couldn't read the board, let me say that. So whenever the teacher would put up her notes, even if I sat right there in the front, I couldn't read the notes. So then reaching out to different entities to say, hey, I can't read the board. Can you provide me with a note taker? Can you provide me with copies of the notes? And there's plenty of programs for that. They did an amazing job. They provided me with all of the big text that I needed, all of the notes that I needed. They provided me with note takers and stuff like that, and not just in college, but also in high school. Like this started in middle school, where I first started getting the note takers and the people who would copy the notes for me and things like that. Super important if you can't see the board. So that was my hardest part, was that. And then sometimes it was hard to take tests and quizzes if the print was a little too small. So they can bring you in large print. um, and then I would say other than that, then when you hit adulthood, that's when the perks kick in. That's when the perks kick in. Like, to me, going to school for free was amazing. That was the only reason why I even went to college in the first place, was because it was free. If it wouldn't have been free, I wouldn't have went, because I think it's pretty stupid to pay $40,000 for a degree, and then you come out and your first job might be 40,000, but you owe that. So I only did that because it was free. Um, and what I believe there was a second part of your question. You said growing up, early childhood, and was there another part?
Um, I, I think it was just school life.
Oh, okay, school. Yeah, so that's how that was with early childhood in school.
Mhm. Yeah, I can definitely relate. Just the low vision and everything. Like my teachers and every would have to either give me a magnifying glass just so I could read the textbooks, and I'm like, that's so awkward being in a whole class and you have
Yeah.
this huge.
Oh yeah. Oh, it get embarrassing. It get real embarrassing, especially when you got a test and the teacher comes out with a book the size of your forearm. You know what I'm saying? And they like, hey, here's your enlarged text. I'm like, yo, how God? If somebody needed a book that big, then they probably didn't have vision at all. You know what I mean? So yeah, it gets embarrassing when the teacher come out and she puts this big old book on your table, like, here you go, this is yours. And then everybody's looking at you like, you know what I mean?
Wait, can you
So
even see? Like,
yeah, so that was crazy. But why don't you wear glasses?
um, well, I do. It's just mine broke, so
Oh,
yeah,
you
I
don't
just
use
have to pay more.
contacts?
No, I've never worn contacts before.
Yo, listen, I'm gonna tell you this, man. Try some contacts.
Mm.
Having contacts in is like a whole new world. You know what I mean? It's like the feeling of seeing sharp vision without the nuisance of having glasses on your face. And it's so useful, especially if you out and about, you going to the gym, you doing something where you're sweating and all of that. And
Mhm.
you know, glasses get in the way a lot. You know what I mean? So contacts is a whole new world. I recommend you try that,
Yeah,
man.
I've
It
asked my
feels amazing.
parents about wearing contacts, but we never really like went in depth about it. It's like, do you really want contacts? And I was like, I don't know. It's like, but yeah,
You should try it. It's worth a try. It's definitely worth a try.
I'll definitely look into that. Hey, that's what my organization's about, confidence. So I gotta get that into instill that into myself.
Are you a confident person?
Um, I- that's like a yes and no question.
Yes and no. Which one is it?
But
What you in
yes.
between? What is it?
I'd say I'm confident. Just I'm just pretty shy and introverted, so it's like that's like the no part of it. Just, but
Hmm. What's the yes part of it?
um, like when like I'm confident when I'm doing things like in my interests, like when I'm acting or something, like
Oh,
the
you're an actor.
more or less.
Well, listen. If you're gonna be an actor, I don't see how you gonna be acting if you all shy and jittery like this. You know what I mean? What you gonna do when you on set and the lights come on? You know what I mean? Like, what you gonna do then? You know, I mean, I don't know what else to say because you obviously been like this all your life, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of class maybe you could take that'll help you to not be shy no more. But you definitely want to take acting serious, which I don't know. Do you want to take acting serious?
Yeah, I do.
Well, you better cut this shyness out. Then you better cut this out real quick. You might be a little late in the game if you might want to cut that out real soon. You know what I
Because
mean?
I take on the role. I'm like, yeah, I got this, and then it's all smooth sailing from there.
Okay, okay, okay. That's good. That's good. And what else do you do other than the podcast and acting? What are some other hobbies or careers that you hold?
Well, I I'm an artistic person. Like the performing arts with acting, singing, and dancing, and all that. Um,
Oh,
and
so you dance?
mhm,
Okay. A bit of a personal question.
mhm,
Does your acting and singing career interfere with your religion because you're Muslim, right?
mhm.
And I know well, I don't know, so tell me if I'm right or wrong. Does is there not a conflict where women of Islam are not to I guess portray themselves out there in certain ways, like performing and dancing and stuff like that, or am I
Oh,
not on the right track here?
well, of course, we're not supposed to like show our bodies or anything like
Right.
that, but we can act and sing and all of that. Just
Okay.
make sure that we're um, in that good image that we're supposed to portray.
Okay. I asked that because I used to know this one woman who was Muslim and she rapped and she used to get a lot of flack for rapping because pretty much the Islamic culture was telling her, like other men in the Islamic culture were telling her that she's not supposed to I don't know how to say it, but she wasn't supposed to like be broadcasting herself out there doing certain things. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she wasn't doing anything vulgar, but it was just like I guess like a whole stigma of a woman in Islam that's out there dancing and singing and blah blah blah. I don't know. I guess it just sounds silly, but
Oh, well, of course, I can't speak for others. Like I'm in the Nation of Islam, so I wouldn't know about like hijabis or anything like that. Um, and their rules and culture and everything. But you know, in the nation, we can we can sorry, I need to get my words together. Um, But yeah, we can do things that we'd like to. Just make sure that it's not vulgar or anything.
Okay. Okay, that's good. And what about job wise? What do you do for a living?
Um, Confident albino brothers and sisters, and that's basically my job. Um, and at times I would do the summer youth program in DC, the Marion Barry summer youth program. So that'd be a job every summer. But,
That's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah, for me, my full time career is always something within now, but I almost said albinism community. Always something within the psychology department, you know. So I usually work with like youth or work with teens. I did a lot of work with like incarcerated youth or foster care. So I'm always within that realm of things. Um, Other than that, my other hobbies would include like gym. Absolutely love working out. Love going to the gym. Gaming. I do a lot of gaming. Just started a gaming channel. Follow Dale Jr. Grudge Gaming. So I just started my Grudge Gaming channel. Of course, Life with Albinism. I absolutely love doing my podcast. I haven't done an episode in a while, and not because I fell off or forgot, but just simply because it's always been pretty difficult scheduling and rounding people up. As you can see with us, this took us like 3-4 weeks to do because just catching each other at different schedules and different times. So that's another hobby of mine is doing my Life with Albinism podcast. I want to start getting into like vlogging, doing travel vlogs and stuff like that. I absolutely love traveling around the world. That's a big hobby of mine. So I want to start documenting a lot of my travel vlogs that I do. Um, so yeah, just things like that. These are all the things that really revolve around me that really piqued my interest. And then other little things like music and stuff like that too. Like I do rap and stuff like that, but I don't really focus on that. Who cares about that? You know what I mean? So yeah, I just think that life with albinism is something that I really want to push to the forefront. With everything else that I'm doing, that's cool, but I really want to start pushing life with albinism into the forefront. I really want to start doing my podcast a lot more often, even if I have to do it with less co-hosts, just to keep the frequency up. And I want to eventually start doing products for people with albinism. I don't want to speak about it yet because I'm working on some things. I don't want to jinx myself right now, but I'm working on some things, and I really want to take life with albinism to the next level. A lot of things that I want to do again that I can't really mention just yet because I want to kind of get things figured out first. Um, but yeah, I want to really mold and shape people's vision of albinism. I really want to mold and shape how people view living with albinism, and I want to, if possible, now this is a stretch, but if possible, I want to eventually become responsible for pushing albinism into the limelight because one issue that I've always had is that very few, very few times do you find a person with albinism in the media. Yeah, you got your one or two albino models. Yeah, you got your one. I can't even say acting because on one of my previous episodes, we spoke about acting with albinism, and someone mentioned The Matrix, someone mentioned the Da Vinci Code, someone mentioned Powder, and I did my research. Neither of those movies had actual people with albinism. Those were all white actors who put on makeup and costume to look as if they had albinism. So the twins in the Matrix, the person in the Da Vinci Code, the person in Powder, none of which were real people with albinism. So we can actually say there's never been a major movie that had a role of a person with albinism. I don't even see it in sports. And again, you might see that little Instagram clip that goes viral of like the kid in high school with albinism that's playing basketball, but I want to see it in the NBA. I want to see it in modeling. I want to see it in TV. I want to see it in music and television. I think the only place we have a really good prevalence is probably music because you got artists like Krondon, you got artists like Brother Ali, who are very, very known and popular in the underground circuit. So I'll give us that. But Other than that, I want to be able to encourage other places and other entities to start pushing people with albinism into the forefront so we can start seeing albino actors, albino athletes, albino models, more than just the two that we obviously know of. I want to see more of it. I want it to be because and I say that because with every other disability, we see it all the time.
Mhm.
When you look at dwarfism, they have reality shows for people with dwarfism. When you see giantism, the people that's like 7 feet tall when they're 10, we see reality shows for people like that. You know what I mean? There's reality shows for people who are severely overweight. There are reality shows for every disability, except for albinism. There's reality shows for even people who have certain mental illnesses and stuff like that. And that's why you get I forgot what that show's called on TLC, like My Strange Addiction and My Obsession and all these other shows that they show with people who have some form of a disorder, some form of a mental disability, but we never see albinism. And I want more of that. I want to start pitching some ideas to these television networks and these shows to push albinism to the forefront.
Right. Yeah. And like just speaking about albinism in media, um, the movies that you mentioned and others have all been negative. So it's not even just the lack of albinism, it's just when it is shown, it's negative. Like,
Right, when it is shown as negative, and then it ain't even real. Let's focus on that too. They
mhm,
wasn't even real albinos. Those were white people who put on blonde wigs and makeup to look like they were albino, which is crazy to me because how hard would it have been for New Line Cinema or whoever produced that movie to just put out a casting call to say, looking for people with albinism, looking for twins with albinism? It would have been easy, but instead of them getting a real albino, they rather get a white person and just decorate them. Like to me, that's crazy. And to me, that shows that there's a problem because why would you want the fake version of something real that you could easily get? It
mhm,
ain't hard to find nobody with albinism. As me and you know, we interviewing people with albinism every day. It ain't hard. I know twins with albinism. So that's my biggest issue is not only is when albinism does surface on some kind of level, they portray it in like a negative way or like the villain or something like that, but
mhm.
then it ain't even real. So the only thing we can give is Black Lightning, which that is a actual man with albinism, and by the name of Krondon, and he's also a rapper. So yeah, we got to see more of that. I want to push albinism to the forefront. I want to really push the Life with Albinism brand to the next level. I want to start doing products. I want to start doing, if I could do shows, if I could do pitch ideas, everything. I want to do it. I really want to do it.
And if like if a chance comes up, maybe we could do something together. Like, you know,
Absolutely. Oh, listen, where you're not located in New York, right?
Washington D.C.
Oh, okay. Well, that ain't too far. So listen, next time something comes up like the NOAA conference, I know they did it digitally this year because of coronavirus. If they do it, if they actually hold it next year, they usually do it in like Arizona or something like that.
Mhm.
If they do it next year, yo, let's go. Let's go there together. We can promote our business, bring your business cards, bring all of that stuff. You know what I mean? And we could work, we can network, we can go there, promote our businesses, and come up with everything that we could possibly do.
Mhm. Yep. And I just wanted to put this out there. Again with media, um, me and my brother we're working on a comic book, and it's called Nair, and it's going to feature a black female with albinism. She's like
Hmm.
a hero type character.
Oh,
Um,
that's dope.
so
That's
he's
dope.
the artist, and I'm the writer. So we're working on that. So that'll push the positive um the
Positive outlook.
positivity in the media type. So
Oh, that's dope. That's dope. Make sure you, whenever y'all get that, have y'all already started it?
he's
Okay,
yeah, he's got like drawing boards and everything up. So
good. Promote that. Push that to the forefront. Promote it. I'll share it. I'll tell other people to share it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I feel like it's endless. We'll never run out of people with albinism to interview or to talk to or to network with. So let's do it.
I haven't really asked you many questions, but we kind of really talked about like a lot of topics
We
that.
definitely did. I think this is actually going to be one of my better episodes. I definitely think so.
Oh yeah.
I definitely think so. And I thank you for your time, you know. I feel like we got a lot of things wrapped up. You know, we could wrap it up here. You know, it was an amazing episode. I can't wait to put this out. And I really like what you're doing. You know, you're encouraging people with albinism. You're pushing it to the forefront. The comic book idea sounds amazing. I never even thought of nothing like that. So keep that up. This is amazing. You know, this is amazing. Let's shout out our social medias and everything so everybody can follow us. You can follow me on Instagram at Life with Albinism with an underscore in between each word. Okay, so it's life underscore with underscore albinism. Um, Also, you can follow me on YouTube. Subscribe to the Life with Albinism podcast. If you want to find that on YouTube, all you got to do is type in Life with Albinism podcast. You type in Life with Albinism podcast on YouTube, it'll come right up. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can see whatever new episodes we are on. Follow us on Instagram, life underscore with underscore albinism. You can find all of our content there. If you want to be on my show, anybody watching this with albinism, you want to be on my show, send me a message, DM me, whatever the case. You can find me on other social medias on my own personal accounts. That's Dale Hamilton, my real name. Find me anywhere, Facebook, Instagram, whatever.
And for my socials, you can follow me at excuse me. You can follow me on Instagram at confident underscore albinos. Find me on Facebook at Qiyamah Muhammad. And like like the page Confident Albino Brothers and Sisters. YouTube is also under the same name, Confident Albino Brothers and Sisters. And Twitter is Confident Albinos. Um, and I think that's everything. But
All right. Thank you.
thank you so
Wonderful
much.
episode.
And like Dale Hamilton and his podcast Life with Albinism. He was the first. you
The
know.
first ever to do it. The world's first albino podcast. Never forget that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was
Thank
a pleasure
you.
meeting and talking with you.
No
Um,
problem. We could do this again anytime. Let me know.
yep. And if there's ever a chance that we could do something, just hit me up. Well,
No doubt.
something.
No doubt.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.